Welcome to Women Making a Difference, PJSAO women who inspire and motivate.
Hello, Brianna Ford. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing well, thanks. How are you, State's Attorney?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Of
You know,
course.
this is a great opportunity for people to get to know you a little bit and also the work you do in our office. So they get to hear from me often as the elected state's attorney. I'm on the news a lot and talking about justice issues that are of importance to our community. But you play a very special role in the office in a unit that I created when I first came here to be the state's attorney, and one that is non-traditional, I think, for state's attorneys' offices. And we were the first state's attorney's office to take on this issue. So without further ado, I want you to talk about, the role that you play in the office and the work that you do. I'm gonna let everyone know what we've been doing.
Yeah, so it is non-traditional. I work in the Conviction and Sentence Integrity Unit, and we have two main functions in the office, though we also pop in other places when needed, especially during COVID. But we mainly review claims, the conviction integrity portion of our unit. We review claims for conviction integrity, and what that means is that we look to see whether or not people are wrongfully convicted or not. The sentence integrity piece of what we do is, as you mentioned, you were the first in the state to kind of get this piece rolling. And what we look at is whether or not someone's sentence was imposed in a just way. And how we've kind of started that process is by looking at people from Prince George's County who were sentenced to life imprisonment as kids, really. And so that's kind of the crux of what we do in this unit.
And so, tell everyone a little bit of your background, because I think how you have come to our office and how you approached this work has been, again, non-traditional for someone working in a prosecutor's office. And then I'm going to get into a little bit more details, but talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I can honestly say that I never considered being a prosecutor until you ran for state's attorney in my county, the county that I live in, Prince George's County. And I'm a career-long defense attorney. I've been practicing as a defense attorney for 7 years. This year that I've been with the state's attorney's office is the first year that I've ever been on the other side. I was a public defender for quite a few years, and then I was an innocence attorney. And I really learned through you that progressive prosecution is a real thing, and it's not just something that's out there in theory. And I wanted to be a part of correcting injustices from decades ago under the leadership of someone like yourself who truly cares about justice.
I really appreciate that. And, having the idea, of course, which is what I had, when I was running, and of course, when I got elected, the ideas are great, but implementing those ideas and seeing, the fruits of your labor and the ideas, come to fruition, really, is something that I can't do by myself, that I need smart, committed, dedicated people like you to be a part of that movement. And so it was great that we were able to connect, and that you took a chance on coming into a prosecutor's office. And I'm happy that you've stayed and you've done great work. I know that through your unit, we have been able to be in the mix in getting 8 juvenile lifers out of prison.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we have dozens more that we're working on right now. So can you tell me how you feel about doing that work?
Yeah, so I think, like I said, our unit does so many things, and it's not just juvenile lifers, and it's not just sentence integrity, but it is so important to move forward and promote this vision of justice. You know, good people make mistakes and they deserve to have a second chance, but that can't happen without people who are willing to recognize and admit that we work within a flawed system and a racist system, systemically. And you're one of those people that has given the opportunity to people like me to come and to work on the other side, if you will, to really kind of bring that alternate perspective. It means so much to me to kind of be on the other side and to be able to be a part of bringing that justice to fruition and really benefiting our community, because we're looking at children who were 14, 15, 16 years old 20, 30 years ago who made a mistake like we all do at 15. And they're different people now, and they've learned a lot, and they are ready to come home and contribute and do better and teach our young community members what not to do. And I think that in the end, that makes our community safer as a whole.
You know, absolutely. And one of the things that we've learned just being in these roles that we have is that they're probably, all public service is important, and all public service, has, areas where it's critical, right? Mm-hmm. But I think because we deal with people's liberty, mm-hmm. We also deal with the safety of our community, and we constantly have to balance all of it, that, being in this role is very humbling, and it requires a lot of thought. It requires a lot of courage. And I kind of want to know, like, what motivates you? Like, because you could do something that's not as taxing, mentally, probably emotionally. Why this work?
Well, I think that it's a really unique opportunity to be able to do what's not always easy. Public service is not always easy, regardless of which side you're on. And I think that, to work for someone and with people, because I will say, I've obviously talked to so many people in the office who have said to me, it's not a traditional role that you're in. And sometimes you come in and you think we're going to all look at you and hate you. But I've really been embraced, and it's been so overwhelmingly warm. And that motivates me to know that people in your office, my office, care about these things, and that they want to see this work done. It's difficult work. The community doesn't always understand. Victims matter, and what has happened to them matters. That's a new perspective for me. Not to say I've never considered it before, but that wasn't my role before.
Right.
Now that is my role now, and it matters.
And so talk about that process a little bit, when we are looking at people, when we are reconsidering sentences or potentially filing joint motions or even supporting parole, talk about the process in terms of contacting the victims.
Yeah. So, you have been instrumental in looking at so many different cases. We've looked at medical parole cases that have been denied that we've taken on ourselves as an office. And especially during the pandemic, you've really made an effort to tell us, hey, we need to do something here. Look at these cases, let's move them. When we look at, let's just say, your traditional juvenile lifer case, if you will, we're looking at so many factors. We're looking at their ability to re-enter society and do well. We're looking at what they've done while they've been incarcerated. We're looking at the facts of the crime. And we do, in fact, consider the victims, and we reach out to them. And, by law, we have to contact them and we have to let them know. And that's difficult because, again, 20, 30, 40 years later, this is now coming up for them. And, they don't always expect that in 4 decades they'll be contacted about their deceased loved one. I think they think it's final. But it's important for everyone to understand that when we know better, we do better.
Mm-hmm.
And we know now, the science is telling us, the law, the Supreme Court is telling us, we need to reevaluate what we're doing in this system, especially as it relates to juveniles. And so, you know, we have amazing victim witness coordinators that are well-versed in how these things go, because like I said, it's not my forte, I'm learning. But they reach out, they connect, they let them know, and we get their position. And we sometimes have to talk with them about what we're doing and why.
Question for you. Do you
Okay.
believe in redemption?
Of course. I think I mentioned earlier, you know, I can think of a handful of times when I was a young teenager and I made mistakes, and I could have been in a very different place had I not had family support, education, support in school, had I not had the skin color that I have, had I not been living in the town that I lived in. And I think that, you know, people, despite the fact that there are a lot of problems with our prison system, and you and I have actually talked a lot about that and how much reform is needed there as well. But my goodness, you have your hands full already. But it's not a place that is conducive to reform. And a lot of these men and women are able to kind of really work wonders with what they have, which is really minimal resources. And they've proven that they are different people, that they've grown up, they recognize their mistakes. And like I said earlier, they deserve to have a second chance to show our community that they can do it and that they can contribute in a meaningful way. And that to me is redemption that they deserve.
Absolutely. Well, I really have to say I thank you, and of course Doyle Neiman, who is
Yes,
the chief. I really thank you for doing this work, because it is not easy. The volumes of paperwork and reports that you have to review, and then putting together those joint motions, making those arguments in the courtroom, sometimes to judges that are receptive and sometimes to judges who are not receptive. It requires a lot of work and a lot of dedication, and I know that you have that, and so that's why I'm so grateful to have you in the office doing this kind of work. So can you, I know we could talk all day but,
we could.
about this issue. So like, I know we're going to follow up to continue to talk about prison reform, and as you know, we're now endeavoring into our, emerging adult program, which
That's
will
right.
hopefully cut down on the need in the future to review sentences, because we won't give out as many disproportionate sentences. But it's a work in progress, because when you're changing a system, you can't do it overnight.
Right.
And so we're still working on it.
Right.
But I wanted you to just like share with maybe folks who might be interested in law, or maybe they are in law school now and they're trying to figure out what direction they want to go in. Do you have any advice for them?
That's a really good question. In our office, we take on law clerks, and I have had the opportunity in our office to work with law students from the University of Maryland and American University, and they've been
and Howard University.
And there are some others as well. Trying to get my alma mater, UDC, on board as well. But what's interesting is I've worked with some of these law students who were much like me. They've represented clients, and now they're working for our office, and they really bring such a well-rounded perspective, and they're not even lawyers yet, and that's really exciting. I would say to someone considering the criminal field that they should really disavow themselves of this idea that they need to pick sides. I've learned a lot being in this office. I think, it takes courage to be able to kind of move on both sides and understand that when we can work together is when we will do the most justice. And that really is ultimately what we're all seeking, is justice, because we all have to live in this community. And so I think, if emerging brand new lawyers can really look at what's out there and the world that we're living in and all the things that are moving and changing, if they can see that it doesn't have to be black and white, it can be gray, and they can do good kind of on either side, so long as they keep justice in mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. So I'm going to let you have the last word. So, but thank you again for the work that you do. I know that we'll probably have another opportunity to chat as we look at some of the other issues around justice reform, including how our office and other prosecutors' office can really begin to help change the jail and prison system and conditions, because we have a responsibility at every phase to take care not only of our community, but also those who are in the system as well. So I thank you so much for your time today, and look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for your brave justice and for igniting this flame in Maryland and kind of keeping this ball rolling. It's been so important. And we have someone coming home today, which is really exciting in time for Christmas and the holidays. And it's a beautiful thing to be a part of. So I'm really grateful to you.
Thank you.